So this video is going to be a discussion, and it won't be a long discussion because there's really no right or wrong with what I'm about to talk about. So some people claim that hardware is the only way to go and computers are not important as far as music, and they come up with these ideas to support whatever kick they're on, is what I'm saying. So, in other words, if you're on a hardware kick, software is the enemy. And if you're on a software kick, you'll see people say hardware is a waste of money. And both are wrong. Here's the reason why it really comes down to the person and what their financial situation is, as well as their preference, as well as their use. Okay, so I say that to say this: hardware has some valid things about it that makes it super solid. There's some realism that exists within hardware, particularly in instruments like guitars, bass guitars, brass, trumpets, um, microphones, headphones, which we all tend to use, right? Even some measure of use case in speakers. Some people would prefer headphones over speakers. Again, it's a preference. If the music sounds good, no one cares, right? A lot of the music you hear on the radios these days, if that's what your aim is to be, is probably computer based. Some of it has some maybe keyboard synths in there that are actually digital, but because they're ran through different machines and processes to make them sound less digital, to the ear, they sound great. But to the average Joe sitting in the studio, he wasn't even using a keyboard, or maybe he was. He was using maybe a plug-in or something that's made by the same keyboard company. Whatever the case may be, in the end, the product is the music. And the music is either good or it's not good. It's either popular or it's not popular. You either love it or you don't. That's really what it comes down to. Even if you get into DJing, it's the same thing. There probably is somebody saying, no, you need to DJ with records. There's another person saying, no, I just feel cool. Just going to use Tidal or whatever other DJ software they may choose to use. Or DJ gear. You might say one person, they need to have this turntable or this needle. And then another person, they're fine with the digital way of producing. And neither one is wrong. It comes down to preference. Now, I'll say this: if I go to a show, I want to see somebody playing the instrument. That's my personal preference. However, in the studio, when you're just making a song and I'm not there with you watching you do it, it's not a performance necessarily. I don't care what you use. That's your choice. I don't care for when a person just takes a loop from somewhere and just plops it on a record and says that's theirs, but that's just me. I would rather see you chop it up, manipulate it in some way, and then make it yours. Not to say you can't use loops. I'm just saying that I'd prefer that. And I'm the same person that would use a loop, that has no problem with it, but I'm going to do something to it to make it my own thing. I'm going to doctor it a little bit, right? So in the end, it comes down to the person, the preference, and the use case, right? That's hardware. That's software. That's everything music wise. I don't care if you buy the gear used. I don't care if you buy something new. It really just comes down to what your use case is. I've seen people spend hundreds and thousands of dollars on gear only to come back and say, you know what, they wish they would have just got a MacBook or some type of computer that they could have done the software on. Again, it's whatever moves you. I'll be honest. I obviously started making music back in a computer back in the day when Fruity Loops was still Fruity Loops. Now it's just FL Studio. But and then eventually went to Reason, and then went to Logic, and then I did use what was that one? I can't even think of what it is called. But anyway, I did use one for a little bit. That's why I can't even remember it. And then eventually went to Ableton. I like Ableton for production. I think it's my favorite for production. I'm not a vocalist and I do play instruments, but I still prefer Ableton overall for making music. That's just me. However, I have a Torso S4 in front of me and I love it. If I had my bass guitar, which I sold, I would play it. But for me right now, because I'm not playing live or doing anything gigging or anything like that, I'm fine with using the keyboard and Trillion to make my bass lines. Just works for me, you know. But I'm still playing it on a controller. And for guitars, I've shown you guys, but I use Ample Sound guitars for most of it. But I've learned because I play guitar how to make it sound as close as possible as I can. And I use higher quality plugins for that reason. Some people would not do that. They'd prefer iOS plugins, cheap stuff that's like $5, $10 that sounds okay. And maybe you can make it sound even better with a little effort behind it. That's their preference. I can't knock that because that's what they choose. That's what they like to make music with. Um, my music is different from other people's music. I don't compare it, nor do I try to be exactly what someone else is. But I will say this, in the end, you do what you like, okay? Because it's what's going to make your heart happy. So it's no use in sitting around trying to manipulate or find a way to say somebody's is better or not. It's just what you like, you know? Everybody's music has something good in it that sounds pleasant to someone's ears, whether it be just yours or someone else's that listens to it. So don't get caught up in the hype of this war of whether gear is better than software or whether software is better than gear and someone's wasting their money on this or that. Who cares? Just do you. And when you do that, you'll find you have more joy in making music, less in trying to stress out about what somebody else is doing. So that's my take on this whole thought of which one is better. I only use Sweetwater because they have a little bit of everything here. So you could just have a visual of what I'm saying. That's the only reason why it's up on the screen. I've bought from them in the past. They are a great company. Have nothing against them at all. And really nothing against none of these companies, but they're just trying to do what everybody else is doing, and that's make some money to keep their dreams and life in a decent place. So I have nothing against it. Anyway, that's it for this one. I'll see you on the next one. I'm out.